Welcome to this week's Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin and Bob Marks.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
This week's Alumni Show is brought to you by Bill Houghton, insuring standardbreds and farms for over 40 years. Bill knows the ins and outs of equine insurance. Make sure your equine investments are protected. Call or text Bill at 954-655-5547. That's 954-655-5547. Call Bill now. Joining us today is returning guest and good friend Marty Irby, the CEO of the Animal Wellness Action and one of Washington, D.C.'s top lobbyists. Marty, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here as always, Freddie. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Marty, now HISA went into effect on July 1st, and have you noticed any differences?
Well, I haven't really noticed a tremendous amount of differences. I spent the weekend studying all of the horse deaths I saw on Equibase for July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. They're about on par for what we normally see. And, of course, there are certain portions of HISA that don't take effect until January of 2023. So I haven't seen much of a difference yet.
Okay. Are you getting any feedback from anyone?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of calls and emails. I had a couple of reporters reach out this weekend, and I think the biggest, well, I'd say there's one word that would describe the situation best, and that is confusion. A lot of the people in horse racing have been confused about what the actual rules are, when they apply, when they take effect, what takes effect July the 1st, and what takes effect in January. And then the reporters actually have had numerous questions regarding veterinarians, how they're impacted, and some of them I could not answer. I think that's going to be for the smart lawyers and legislative counsel who helped put the bill together. But there's a lot of confusion out there and a lot of questions at this point in time.
Yeah, now I'm going to talk a little bit about Texas. It seems that Texas has cut off its nose to spite its face. Their track handle on Saturday at Lone Star was $215K. The previous Saturday, it was $1.8 million. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's not surprising. I've been reading up about Texas and everything that's occurred, and it seems it's the State Racing Commission, not so much the track, Lone Star there. So I think it's unfortunate that we're seeing that, but it does make me wonder, does the State Racing Commission actually make any money at the end of the day, and are they doing this because it may not be worth their while to keep racing going in the state? I hope that's not the case, because Texas is a huge state. There are tons of horse people, tons of people in thoroughbred racing, quarter horse racing, probably even harness racing, and it would be a shame for us to see them cease operations there. I just don't see how they could operate with a handle like that going forward.
Yeah, and then the other thing is HISA's been hit with 2 new lawsuits by 2 states, Louisiana and West Virginia. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I saw that the lawsuit in Louisiana, they had requested a stay, I believe, or an injunction, and that was denied. So I don't see much coming from those, especially with the other lawsuits that we've already seen in play prior to this point in time that were dismissed. I think it's just another attempt by those who have opposed the legislation since the beginning to try to derail it, and I do not think they will be successful in those attempts.
Right, and then also, I guess 4 senators sent in a letter, I guess, of their opposition to HISA. Now, you're in D.C. Any thoughts or any feedback on that?
Yeah, I was quite surprised, actually, to see that. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana was one of the signers. He's a great friend to us at Animal Wellness Action, probably the best Republican in the entire United States Senate on animal welfare issues. So it was a little surprising to see that from him, but he does have several tracks in the state. Senator Grassley has typically been no friend to animals in the past, so I'm not sure what his issues really are, but he and Senator Ernst were 50% of the letter, the 2 senators from Iowa, and Iowa has already come to an agreement with HISA and seems to be on board as a state. So that's a little bit alarming, but at the end of the day, the law is the law, and I don't think that they're trying to do anything to derail it. I think they're just trying to make sure that things are done properly and that the law is implemented the way that it should be. And there are a lot of people out there with those concerns. I was a bit surprised that Congressman Barr and Congressman Tonko, who led the legislation, haven't really weighed in thus far since we saw USADA, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, kicked to the curb and this Drug-Free Sport International selected to do the testing instead. So again, this I think goes back to confusion. And there is a lot of it out there, but hopefully in the coming months between now and January 1st, we see a lot of these details ironed out and a lot of the confusion subsides.
Marty, do you know how many states have signed into HISA?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. And you also recently made a statement in your press release saying HISA is horse racing's last chance. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the betting public, and when I say last chance, I think that means, or I say it from my view at least, that means to maintain itself as a legitimate sport in the public eye. One of the things that has been really interesting that not many people talk about is prior to just 2 or 3 years ago, there was no gambling in all of these other sports that occur, baseball, football, basketball, at least legal gambling anyway. And now that gambling has been legalized in those sports, there is some tremendous competition for horse racing in that regard, where horse racing and a few other lesser-known sports had cornered the market in that area. So that's number one. Number two is that if you're betting and now you have the opportunity to go bet on football, baseball, basketball, or horse racing, most people are probably going to lean toward the sports that they know what they're getting. In horse racing, you do not know what you're getting as of today because there are so many cheaters, there have been so many people drugging horses, and you're betting on a rigged system. People want certainty, and people want to be able to know what they're betting on and that they're getting a fair shake in anything that they're doing.
Okay, and that's going to bring me into my last question. There's a new website coming out called Horse Racing Watch. Now, can you tell us a little bit about that and what's the purpose of that?
Yes, we are launching horseracingwatch.org this week and plan to be a watchdog for the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. We had not initially planned to do this, but once they parted ways with USADA and went with Drug-Free Sport International, we felt very alarmed, very concerned, because in nearly 1,000 meetings, as I've said before on Capitol Hill, and Freddie, you were in many of those with me, hundreds probably, we said USADA was the bedrock and the foundation of this legislation. It was the one thing that everyone agreed upon, whether it was the Thoroughbred Horse Racing Act or the Thoroughbred Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act or what actually got signed into law. So, I think that there are a lot of people who are concerned that were involved in the Coalition for Horse Racing Integrity, people in horse racing, people in animal advocacy, and people just out there in the general betting public. And we want to make sure that we hold their feet to the fire. We want to make sure that they're held accountable, and we want transparency. So we actually have some questions going into HISA this week that we're going to be asking for some documents and some information related to their operations and whatnot. And we're going to publish the information we receive. We're also going to be a resource to provide links to whatever is on the agenda for HISA, whether it's a new regulation at the FTC or it's the establishment of this new website that will record all of the deaths and injuries in horse racing. And we just want to make sure that the law is implemented properly, and we're going to continue to work and be a resource for everyone out there. So we hope that you will check out horseracingwatch.org.
Okay, and are people going to be able to ask questions there also?
Yes, absolutely. We'll have a comment area where you'll be able to ask questions. There'll also be an area where you can provide tips if you know of someone that is illegally drugging horses or see some sort of abuse that's going on. We want to know about that. We want to be able to investigate, and we want to make sure that the sport is clean. At the end of the day, the work that we're trying to do is ultimately to save the sport of horse racing. It's not to make it go away. And I get calls and emails every day from animal advocates who want to see it go away, but it has to be cleaned up in order to thrive and flourish and maintain its legitimacy, and that's what we're here to do.
If you're buying or selling your home, Joe Rico is your go-to guy.
Joe has been representing buyers and sellers on Long Island for 30 years. He is an expert in all types of sales. Don't settle for average. Call or text Joe Rico today at 516-524-4870. That's Joe Rico at 516-524-4870.
You know what, Freddie? Give everybody Joe's email address.
That's Joe Rico, C21 at yahoo.com. The Standardbred Retirement Foundation has been rescuing and caring for Standardbreds since 1989. They now have over 470 horses in their care. Find out how you can help. Visit adoptahorse.org, the Standardbred Retirement Foundation. Marty, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to being with you at the Hamiltonian.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it too, Fred.
Okay. That's a wrap for this week's broadcast. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to join us again next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show